Hey Team Rabbit, welcome back. This is Rabbit. If it doesn't look like I'm on the PCT, well, it's because I'm not. I'm at my house in Park City where I've been for almost 2 weeks since arriving at Kennedy Meadows. I need to, it was a little bit too early to go into the Sierra for me, so I came home in part to formulate a plan, in part to go through my gear and my injuries and get all that back into shape. So a lot of you have been asking me about the gear. A lot of you gearheads out there. Some of you are planning to hike soon. Some of you are planning to hike later. But a lot of people want to know what's working and what's not working on the trail. So I want to take a few minutes to go through it. The very first thing I want to do is acknowledge a lot of the manufacturers out there and retailers who just have fantastic warranties on their gear. REI, Moose Jaw, their warranties are fantastic. They'll let you replace gear without any real reason, and I've had some reasons we'll talk about, but they've been super on honoring those guarantees. I mentioned to a lot of people early on that the lights weren't working on my tent. I have a Big Agnes Copper Spur UL2 HV tent, which has the mountain glow feature. The lights weren't working. I sent the tent back and they got it to me shortly before I started on the trail. Honored that warranty. Kudos to Big Agnes, one of the best tent makers out there. Likewise, my backpack, early on in the hike, I broke a stay in my backpack. Contacted ULA in Provo, Utah, Logan, Utah, not far from where I live. They sent me a stay by overnight mail. Didn't charge me anything. They worked with me on the phone to make sure I installed it correctly and didn't break that. So really honored their deal. In general, with the big three, my backpack, my tent, shelter, and my sleeping system, I've been super pleased. Had very few problems. I got my tent here. My backpack. Doesn't look much like a tent. It's gotten pretty dirty. Last few days especially were muddy on the trail. I didn't have any dry places the last day to put this thing. So I set it on the ground. If you could really look carefully, there's a little bit of abrasion on the side. That's not the fault of the backpack, that's my fault. I haven't been as good to that as I could be. So I'm gonna work on being better with that as we go forward. But this backpack has held up well. Now, I've had some back pain, a lot of back pain, which at first I thought maybe because I hadn't shifted the backpack right, loaded it correctly or whatever. Maybe I was overloading it because I've been putting in a little bit more than 30 pounds and it's only rated for 30. But I had those pains at home, whether I'm wearing the backpack or not, so that's not the problem there. The circuit's been a great backpack so far. I got no complaints. The tent has been fantastic. I had a two-man tent. I'd read that there were a lot of two-man tents on the trail. In reality, I haven't seen too many of them. I'm glad I've got mine. I really like the space in it. I like the pockets in it. I like the mountain glow feature, which I do use, although I don't use the battery that came with it. Instead, I use my battery pack that I use to recharge my phone. But I do get use out of that, and I'm surprised. Now, the only thing that has bothered me at all about this is it comes in this handy-dandy little pack sack, and probably I just need to be more careful how I'm packing it. But up here at the very tip top, I've got the tent poles are starting to poke holes in that sack. I think if I pack it a little bit better, I may be able to prevent that from happening. Again, I can't blame Big Agnes. I got to blame myself a little for just not being more comfortable. Now, I'd also reported back that I had absolutely no problems with my sleeping system. I do love it. I have an Enlightened Equipment Revelation quilt, 20-degree quilt, extra wide, medium length, and that has been just super. I stayed warm on the coldest nights so far, which have only been down into the 20s. But it's done me really good. Never had a moment that I felt anything, but if anything, maybe too warm, so I have to be careful about not tucking it up around me too close, leave a lot of space for it to breathe and for me to breathe so that I don't start sweating while I'm under it. I do have one minor complaint, and that is that thing starts to stink after a while. I don't know where that stink's coming from, but man, it's bad at times. I'm going to have to talk to the manufacturers about that and see if they can figure out what's causing that. I have a Thermarest Neo-Air. Now, one of you sharp-eyed Team Rabbit members out there noticed that I've been sleeping with this upside down. I don't know. I guess I just thought that the label and all would be down. They've told me it's not, should be up. Well, I usually sleep on my stomach, and now I'm sleeping on my back, so I thought maybe I should turn it upside down. Any event, this thing has been super. I went through the desert and all kinds of pokey things out there, and I've done good right up to about my last 3 days on the trail. I noticed that this is very slowly leaking air, but maybe 3-4 times during the night I'll have to get up, blow 2 or 3 puffs into it, and it's fine. I don't want to take any chances in the Sierra because I really rely on the insulation that this provides for me. So I bought another one, and they're not cheap. But hey, I'm not cheap either. I'd rather waste another air pad than me. I want to be comfortable out there. So I picked up another one. So that's it for the big three. They've done me really good. I've been very pleased with them so far. No real complaints at all. Let's talk about a few other decisions I made along the way. So one of the things early on I did is with my water filtration system, I tried to design a little flexibility into that. But in the end, I found myself just using a 2-quart water bag and the Sawyer squeeze. The Sawyer squeeze has worked great. I haven't been able to back flush it as much as I'd like, and when I finally did get around to back flushing it, well, it wasn't a pretty sight. So it's going to be hard to get that vision out of my mind the next time I do have to drink out of this, but I think I cleaned it up pretty good. Everybody kept asking me, well, how many bladders have you ruptured on the trail? And at the time I was asked this question, my answer was 0. I don't really understand why people do. You just need to be patient, something I'm not known for. But if you squeeze these things gentle and you take care of them, and I'm not real easy on my gear, they'll last you a while. Now, having said that, the very last time I filtered water using this, guess what? Small leak. But I knew I could filter a little bit more if I had to. Even with a small leak, I was able to filter some water through, and I held on to it just in case of emergencies. But got me a new bladder now. I may carry just a real small one just for emergencies. But if you pack for every emergency on the trail here, you're going to need a lot bigger pack than whatever you're carrying right now. Now, because I shoot a lot of video and I use a lot electricity, I came prepared with this monster here, this bad boy. This is an Anchor, like it's about a 30,000 milliamp, 26,800 milliamp battery pack. This thing could have powered Southern California if it had come to that. Trouble is, it weighs about 20 ounces, and that's an awful lot of weight to be carrying with you. So after a while, I downsized. I had this little guy here. Compare the sizes. It weighs, I think, about 7.5 ounces or so. I used this, and it did just fine for me just about everywhere. On my last leg, I did 7 nights on the trail, and I squeezed every amp out of this thing into my phone and limped in with everything kind of dulling out on me at the end. It's not the kind of risk I want to take in a lot of places. I do rely on my phone for navigation and other things, not so much for phone calls because, hey, I got AT&T. Don't call AT&T and tell them I said that. If you do, they won't answer the phone because they won't have connectivity either. But Verizon, by the way, is probably the way to go on the trail based on what I've seen, if you can do that. I've been carrying this guy. When I go back into the Sierras, I'm going to bite the bullet and carry that big bad boy again, but most of the time, I think I can live with this guy. We're going to try. I might even take a look to see if I can find something in between. Now, one thing I didn't expect to be using much on the trail were my Frog Tog rain suit. These are just my pants. My jacket is somewhere in the trash. But I want to tell you, I wore that jacket just about every day. Go back and look at my videos. In most videos, you'll see me wearing that jacket. I used it more as a windbreaker than a rain jacket because I had very little rain on the trail. And it was super. It did a great job, but it's thorny down there in the desert, and the thing was looking more like Swiss cheese than a rain jacket by the time I got done. But it was light enough to not get me hot. It was good enough as a windbreaker to keep me from really chilling out in the wind. The price on it was super. People tell you, oh, Frog Togs, they don't hold up, and I gotta say they may not. They're not built to last forever, but they're a good value. Now, I've since then bought me Outdoor Research Helium Hybrid. The jury's out on that, but it looks like it'll do me good. I don't know about rain, but it's going to do me pretty good when I just need a very, very light jacket to wear, and will give me some rain protection. Okay, what else did I do? In the clothes side, the shirt I was holding held up well. My hat held up really, really well. My pants, I mentioned in an earlier video that I had Columbia pants that I bought at REI. Some of the seams was coming out of those, so I replaced them with a pair of REI Sierra pants, and I enjoyed wearing both pairs. They did me fine, but I was a little worried with the Columbia pants that with seams starting to come out. Well, we'd have an unseemly seam pretty soon, and I didn't want to wait for that to happen. So took them back to REI. They honored their warranty, no problem. I've been wearing Lone Peak Atra 3.5. This pair was my second pair. I swapped them out at REI after my first pair kept losing insoles. Not losing them, but turning them sideways or almost spitting them out. I talked to a few people on the trail that told me that's actually a pretty common problem with this shoe. So I now have a different pair of Atra. They're the, I think they're called Temp. They look a little gimmicky to me. The laces going down to the tongue are kind of offset a little, so they're not straight down the shoe, but they're kind of off to the side. I don't know. My feet struggled off and on a lot. I had a lot of problems. This is going to be my last try with Atra, and if they don't work out, I'm going to something else, but haven't been super pleased with the shoes. My cold weather gear, I didn't need much. Unfortunately, the only times I really did need it, I usually didn't have it with me. I left it sometimes with relatives while I was hiking. When I summited Mount San Jacinto, I didn't have my micro spikes. When we faced freezing cold winds up by Mount Baden-Powell, do you think I had my gloves or my hat or anything like that? No, not a chance. So I'm sure that they kept the inside of my uncle's house really warm, but they didn't help me. Otherwise, well worth having them, because just because you're in the desert doesn't mean it's not going to get cold. A few other things. I had a butt pad here, flexible one. I tried it for a while, got rid of it. May find a place for it again, because gosh, it really is nice to have one of those when you're ready to have one. And I was jealous. I actually had people loan me theirs, because I don't have much of a butt to pad, and so it's pretty important I got something soft. One of my big luxury items, my Explorer InReach. Been super. For those of you who don't actually follow my website, if you go in and on the menu there's a GPS link in there where this will give you near real-time information about where I'm actually out on the trail. These videos come out kind of late, and so if you ever really want to know where I'm at, this thing might tell you. Let me reach over here. I use my clothes bag a lot for a pillow, and it worked pretty good. I'm taking this little guy, I think it's about 2 ounces, sea to summit. I haven't been sleeping very good on the trail, at least part of that struggling with the pillow thing. This may help me. I don't know, maybe it won't. Now, I'm going to talk pretty soon about my plan forward. That'll be a separate video. If you guys have any questions, leave your questions down in the comments, and I'll get back to you. I try to answer all comments. My videos come out a bit late, so my answers, of course, are going to be late too sometimes. But keep following. I appreciate all the support and kind words everybody's giving me out there. Thanks very much, and we'll talk soon.